Hi and good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Saraya Mia. Polling day for the Kemaman by-election will take place on December 2nd. Election Commission Chairman Tan Sri Abdul Ghani Saleh also announced that nominations will be on November 18th and early voting on November 28th.
Di PPR bagi PRK Parlimen P040 Kemaman Terengganu ini mengandungi seramai 100,041,790 orang pemilih. PRK Parlimen P040 Kemaman Terengganu memerlukan belanja sebanyak 3.5 juta.
Chair Alias Hamid from PAS had won the Kemaman parliamentary seat in a four-cornered fight in the 15th general election. However, the Terengganu Election Court annulled his victory on September 26 as it ruled that there were elements of corruption involved during the polls. PAS decided not to appeal against the decision.
Around 58 billion ringgit of Malaysia's trade with China, Indonesia and Thailand was carried out in ringgit. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim says Vietnam and Cambodia are expected to follow suit under the local currency settlement framework inked at the recent ASEAN agreement meeting in Jakarta.
Dari segi perdagangan paling tinggi kita adalah dengan Singapura 15%. Tapi sebagai negara perdagangan, Singapura tidak menunjukkan terlalu kuat minat untuk menggunakan tempatan local currency. Yang kedua tertinggi adalah China 13.8%, dan China di antara negara yang paling aktif menyambut, dan ini kedua-duanya negara dan sektor swasta. Cuma permasalahannya bila syarikat itu terlibat dalam international trade yang lain, jadi mereka sukar untuk mengambil kira kepentingan dua negara sahaja.
Putrajaya is considering providing subsidies to Malaysians via cash transfers. The Prime Minister says the method could avoid leakages, though it should only be implemented for certain subsidies.
Cadangan pekan tentang pengairan tunai itu satu cadangan baik kerana telah dipergunakan dulu, tapi cuma tidak boleh untuk semua. Itu sedang difikirkan dalam beberapa langkah yang lain yang lebih kompleks. Tetapi dalam kes ayam dan telur ini tidak perlu begitu kerana harganya sudah menurun, dan kita ada, saya katakan, plan contingency dari segi stok dan juga pasaran, bukan saja di Thailand yang murah, di negara China juga murah. Jadi oleh itu langkah sekarang itu dianggap mensabar. Dia tidak kepada syarikat, ya, tidak kepada yang seperti yang dicadangkan. Cadangan untuk cash transfer itu sedang ditimbangkan untuk beberapa urusan lain dan mungkin akan diumumkan.
A forensic report has revealed that heavy rainfall was the main factor behind the deadly Batangkali landslide that claimed 31 lives. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said the investigations found no concrete evidence to show that human activities contributed to the landslide incident.
The report found that the landslide was due to a combination of heavy cumulative rainfall for 5 days before the incident, as well as in the preceding month. Zaid, who leads the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, did not mention any other contributory factors, but said the full report is accessible to the public on NADMA's website tomorrow. A landslide occurred in the early hours of December 16th last year at the Father's Organic Farm campsite at Batangkali in Hulu Kelang, Selangor, killing 31 people, including 13 children, and injuring 61 others.
Budget 2024 has just been tabled by Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim last week. If you want to know what you will get, we make it easier for you via our Budget 2024 calculator. Just scan the QR code below and answer 9 simple questions. You can also go to astroawani.com for more details. And we will have a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Inside the hidden corners of Asia, meet the masterminds who orchestrate deadly games of deception. Like an intricate symphony of chaos, Enter a complex web of corruption, scams, and terror beyond your wildest imagination. Encounter shocking revelations about the most wanted crimes of Asia on Discovery Asia.
At least 71 people have been killed in an overnight Israeli bombardment in southern Gaza, with the heaviest bombardments in Khan Yunis, Rafah, and Deir al-Balah. Many of those killed are families who evacuated from Gaza City and the northern part of the Strip, as ordered by Israel. It was reported that hundreds were also wounded during the bombardments, with many still trapped in the rubble of the targeted buildings awaiting rescue. Meanwhile, a humanitarian aid convoy for Gaza arrived at the Egyptian side of the Rafah crossing, but there has been no confirmation about when the convoy will be allowed into Gaza. This comes after the UN Security Council failed to agree on a ceasefire in Gaza on Monday. U.S. President Joe Biden will be visiting Israel on Wednesday as protests erupted at the White House on Monday in calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. More than 2,800 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli attacks in Gaza since October 7th, with over 1,400 Israelis killed, including police officers. Meanwhile, Belgian police have shot dead a suspected extremist who killed 2 Swedish nationals and injured another person in Brussels last night. The suspect, a 45-year-old Tunisian national, was shot in the chest and died in hospital from his wounds.
The deadly attack came as Belgium hosted Sweden in a Euro 2024 qualifier game, forcing the match to be abandoned at half-time. A terror alert for Brussels has been raised to its highest level, while France tightened controls at the border with Belgium. Prosecutors said a man had identified himself as the attacker in a video posted on social media, adding that he was inspired by the Islamic State group. They also said there was no evidence that attacker was linked to the Palestine-Israel war and that the likely motive was the Swedish nationality of the victims. Tensions between Sweden and Muslim countries have heightened this year following multiple burnings of the Quran.
In other news, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, urged the international community to keep supporting Rohingya refugees while the world faces multiple crises. Speaking at the high-level regional meeting on Rohingya refugees in Bangkok, Thailand, he highlights his concerns of declining humanitarian aid for the group caused by the shift in attention to other major crises.
You know very well that since the crisis occurred in 2017, we've had many other major crises that have captured the attention and the resources of the international community. The war in Ethiopia, the takeover of the Taliban in Afghanistan, the Ukraine war, the civil war in Sudan, and now the Middle East crisis.
Due to other major crises, Grandi said the UN Refugee Agency only managed to secure 40% of the required $275 million for the Rohingya refugees in 2022. Grandi said humanitarian assistance was declining and that urgent support is needed for the group as they continue to live in congested camps prone to natural disasters and diseases. Over 1 million Rohingya refugees now reside in Bangladesh, most of whom fled a Myanmar military crackdown in 2017.
On to sports news. Malaysia's Oscar-winning actress Thri Michelle Yu has been voted into the International Olympic Committee, IOC. The first Asian woman to win an Academy Award for Best Actress for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once earlier this year was elected by 67 votes to 9, with 1 abstention.
Abstentions 1.
The former Malaysian junior squash champion was one of 8 new members elected on Tuesday in Mumbai, India. 61-year-old Yeoh's election into the committee resulted in the total number of IOC members rising to 107, as she and the other newly elected members took the Olympic oath. Yeoh, who always dreamt of being an Olympian as a child, said she grew up with sports and was very much involved with squash, athletics, swimming and diving. The Ipoh-born turned Hollywood actress added that she hoped to marry her experience of being a successful actor with the knowledge gained from being a goodwill ambassador for the United Nations Development Programme. According to the IOC, the 8 new members were selected based on their experience and diverse expertise in different walks of life.
Severe weather events resulting from climate change is leading to more threats on global health. These are linked to the lack of clean air, drinking water, or food supplies, creating grounds for outbreak and disease epidemics. Dr. Maria Guevara from Doctors Without Borders sounds the alarm on its impacts to our well-being.
So what's predicted, I think, I believe from 2030 and 2050, in this time period, the WHO says, we're probably going to face 250,000 more additional deaths per year. So from MSF's perspective, as a global medical humanitarian organization, we've already been dealing with these health emergencies on a constant basis. So it's now also more evident that there is a relationship with climate change, as we're seeing it get more and more unpredictable, severe in breadth, more frequent, and huge sizes of outbreaks. This year, for example, in the wake of COVID, so COVID in itself, as an emerging infectious disease of zoonotic origin or animal origin, this has created a huge repercussions or collateral effects on the health system. And that begets more outbreaks like cholera because of all this insecurity. So now we through the last couple of years, we've seen a huge spike in cholera outbreaks in at least 30 countries around the world, with many who have not seen it for over decades are now seeing it again. So it's just a domino effect that climate change has put on the table.
Urgent action is required to mitigate the growing global health risks from climate change. Dr. Maria explains how failure to act now would further affect the Asia-Pacific region.
Taking into consideration, climate change is also a natural phenomenon, but because of human activity impact that has skyrocketed in the last through the Industrial Revolution to today. And that impact is hitting Asia-Pacific. And so the heat stress is increasing, which will be impacting Malaysia a lot. More floods, more uneven floods and droughts experiences are also going to impact Malaysia.
Innovation, said Maria, is required to better respond to ongoing climate health emergencies.
One of the things we could probably consider innovating with Malaysia, for example, is how do we address dengue? So I'm going to jump to Honduras. This is where we're also working on addressing dengue, for example. And there we have just recently launched with the government what we call the Wolbachia infected mosquitoes. So we had created the breeding of mosquitoes that are infected with this bacteria of Wolbachia, which makes them less prone to have to transmit dengue. And hopefully, in generations in the next year or so, the next generations of mosquitoes won't be able to transmit dengue, and therefore maybe hopefully decrease the risk of dengue fever outbreaks. And that's something that we could consider as an innovative kind of targeted vector control, for example, in Malaysia, to address these kinds of risks that may be posing for the Malaysian populations.
That report ends AWANI tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Saraya Mia. We'll see you soon and good night.